Thank you very much, Ambassador. From this point onward, we would like to commence a Q&A. First of all, to use the prerogative of the chair, I would like to ask my first question. With respect to TPP, as you mentioned in your talk, it is supposed to be an agreement of high standard. It is an ambitious agreement with high level of objective, and it is a comprehensive agreement. It is aimed to become comprehensive, and this agreement is going to cover new areas like state-owned enterprises. It's a very ambitious agreement that the countries are working on. So many countries are party to that, and they are aiming at high standard agreement. If that was the case, challenges would be also very high. There will be a high hurdle in terms of challenges. To think of Doha round, of course, it's a different story. The whole world participated in the Doha round. Consequently, developed countries and developing countries could not agree on, and in the end, it did not work out well. So regarding TPP, just like that, developed countries and emerging countries, developing countries are included as of now. So if you consider these different stages of development, it may be very difficult to come to a consensus, one may argue. So are you worried about the awesome nature of the challenge ahead? In order to solve this question of high hurdle, what are the keys to solve the high hurdle question?
Very much for that question, and you are right that this is an ambitious effort. The 12 countries of TPP, including Japan now, are working to do something that countries have not done before in terms of setting high standards and introducing new disciplines that we think will have a positive effect not only for the countries and the region, but for the multilateral trading system as well. I think the reason why I'm optimistic that we can get this done is that there's a great deal of political will behind it. Our leaders have all spoken to each other, and they've underscored the importance and the value of this kind of ambitious, high-level, and comprehensive agreement. And with that political will behind it, I think it's very possible to, and I'm confident that we will be able to achieve an agreement and to do so this year.
はい、これだけたくさんの方が集まってますので、とりあえず、言いますか、皆さんの方からの質問の時間に変えたいと思います。最初にですね、お名前と所属を言っていただいて、それから近くにですね、マイクがありますので、そちらの方に行ってですね。
Sorry, nobody's translating.
Nobody?
Nobody. I'm sorry. Since we have so many people, we'd like to open up the floor for discussion or questions from the floor. There are microphones. Please come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation. My name is Oyamada from Asahi Newspapers. Hello, I have two questions, if I may. The first one is, the United States in its FTA with Australia, you had excluded sugar. Are you going to intend to do that in TPP as well? Would that be an exception? Secondly, I would like to confirm this with you, who is the top person responsible. Currently, there is a former Monsanto employee among your negotiation party. Is that true? These are the two questions I would like you to address.
Well, on the first issue, the objective is to achieve a high standard, ambitious, comprehensive agreement in which all goods are subject to negotiation. As I mentioned in my remarks, every country has sensitivities, and they'll be dealt with in the context of the negotiations. On the second question, I'm not familiar with who you're referring to, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much. Yes, this person on this side.
Anthony Rowley, Singapore Business Times. As you observed, Mr. Secretary, there are bilateral negotiations between the US and Japan going on in parallel with the TPP. Does this mean that any concessions or any market access that Japan offers to the US or the US offers to Japan under these bilateral negotiations will automatically be extended to the other TPP partners? And if not, why are the bilateral discussions being held in parallel with the multilateral discussions?
Well, for example, one part of the bilateral negotiation is over non-tariff measures. And as these non-tariff measures are addressed, they would have benefits for everybody. And so they're not necessarily exclusive to the bilateral relationship. It's just that these are issues that have historically been obstacles in our relationship, irritants in our trade relationship. And when we consulted with Japan and agreed to have Japan enter TPP, we agreed to set up a negotiation to address these long-standing issues so that we could put the trading relationship on more sound footing going forward.
Hi.
Thank you. My name is Yasu Oto. I'm editorial writer for Nikkei newspaper. I understand in your statement that you emphasize the importance of rebalance of the global economy, and TPP could be a significant mean to achieve the goal. And also you have the trade talks with the EU parallelly. And I may have missed the word, but you mentioned the name of ASEAN when you talked about the Pacific Rims. But one country missing in your statement was the China. How do the Obama administration intend to integrate this country into that balanced shape of the global economy? And I don't think you have any trade talks at this moment with China, but TPP does not. China is not a member of TPP at this moment. How, in the long term, how would you see the path of to achieve the final goal of the administration?
Well, we have deep and ongoing engagement with China on a broad range of trade and investment economic issues, including at the level of our president, our strategic and economic dialogue, which we recently convened in July, our joint committee on commerce and trade, which I lead together with our Commerce Secretary from the U.S. side. And these are all opportunities to address issues in our bilateral economic and our multilateral economic relationship. And so, for example, at the recent Strategic and Economic Dialogue, China agreed to move forward with negotiations of a bilateral investment treaty based on certain key principles, a negative list and national treatment in the pre-establishment phase, and that will create an opportunity for us to engage with our Chinese counterparts on important economic issues. So we are very much engaged with China, whether it's bilaterally or in the multilateral system.
Hi, So-chan.
Yes, that person on this side. Sato from TBS television station. Thank you very much. TPP negotiation, you said that the other countries have sensitivities. Japan is not alone. On the other hand, the TPP aims at the application, elimination of tariffs. At the same time, you are aiming at high-level, high-standard agreement. Elimination of tariff and high-standard agreement. Between these two wordings, what is there in between?
I think our goal is a high standard, ambitious, comprehensive agreement, including the elimination of tariffs. But we recognize that every country has sensitivities, and those sensitivities will need to be dealt with in the context of the negotiations. But what we're trying to do through these negotiations is ensure that in each of the areas, whether it's intellectual property rights or state-owned enterprises, or the way in which small and medium-sized businesses are integrated into the global economy, that we're setting high standards and creating new rules. And very importantly, Japan is now at the table to help us establish those new rules. And then when it comes to market access, we want comprehensive coverage, the goal of eliminating tariffs, but dealing with each other's sensitivities through the negotiation.
はい、一番奥の方。
Shin Kazama. I have a very quick and rather technical technical questions, but I have three of them. Could the U.S. Congress reject multilateral TPP agreement as a whole when they are not satisfied with the bilateral agreement with Japan or whichever country? Number two, would bilateral agreement with Japan or whichever country be inactive as long as TPP multilateral agreement is not ratified by the Congress? Number three, you lead these trade negotiations, multilateral or bilateral, without trade promotion authority. Taking this into consideration, how long does it take you to get TPP multilateral agreement get ratified by the Congress? Thank you.
If I understood the question correctly, let me answer it this way. The agreement we have between ourselves and the Japanese government is to pursue the parallel negotiations on the same timetable as TPP. And our ability to conclude a TPP with Japan is tied to our ability to successfully conclude those bilateral negotiations. At that point, we'll determine how we submit this to the degree that it needs to be submitted to Congress, With regard to Trade Promotion Authority, there's been much work underway within Congress on Trade Promotion Authority, and the President recently spoke about that publicly, requesting Trade Promotion Authority, and we stand ready to engage with our congressional counterparts to help them as they move forward with Trade Promotion Authority.
Araki Kyodo News.
Thank you for being with us today. And I know the U.S. government will not make a tariff offer to Japan until the ITC submit a report. And so when are you going to make a tariff offer to Japan? And if it's right after the August 21st, or can you do that in preliminary round? And if so, do you include the tariff negotiation? Can you reopen the tariff negotiation with the automobile too?
Well, as you indicate, under our system, we can table an offer only after we have taken into account the analysis of the International Trade Commission. That analysis is to be done this week, and we anticipate tabling an offer in September. But in the meantime, we're having a number of bilateral discussions about our various outstanding issues so that we can make progress and keep the momentum going in the negotiations.
I am Ikechiri from Asahi Newspaper. Thank you very much, Mr. Froman. In the TPP negotiation, the 5 agricultural items are considered to be a sacred ground. I just want to hear your take on it. These 5 agricultural items, would they be items that you believe should be presented at the negotiation? Is there room to be considered as an exception to the rule? I'd like to hear what you think.
Well, I think as our governments and leaders said back in February, there was agreement that TPP should be a comprehensive agreement with the goal of eliminating tariffs on all products. Having said that, there's a recognition that there are sensitivities The countries have particular sensitivities, and those should be dealt with in negotiations. But as I said in my remarks, all goods are subject to negotiation, and then we'll deal, as we deal with all the other TPP countries, and as they are dealing with each other, we'll deal with those sensitivities through the negotiation.
Yes, that person. Freelance member Obayashi is my name. Regarding insurance, I have a question. The other day, Japan Post and AFLAC concluded a partnership agreement, collaborative agreement. On this agreement, what is your assessment? There was a 5 agricultural items question previous to my question. So agricultural items and insurance may be regarded by the Japanese government as exchangeable agenda items. Do you subscribe to this kind of understanding that these two topics are exchangeable? Furthermore, the other day, Ms. Cutler, I think it is her name, talking about that partnership agreement, it is only the collaboration of one item of one area. She was not satisfied with that agreement alone. It means that there are other insurance companies in the United States. Japan Post may consider furthermore 2 companies or 3 companies similar tie-up agreements. Do you think that it is desirable that the Japan Post would have more agreements with American insurance companies? Now, regarding cancer insurance, American companies have the monopolistic share. AFLAC has the monopolistic share. How come that AFLAC is given such a big favor? Wouldn't it be too unfair for the Japanese insurance sector? Japanese insurance business should seek the collaborative agreement with Japan Post. What do you think of such stance taken by the Japanese insurance business?
We noted the recent announcement with interest, and we think it's a positive announcement and a positive step forward. But there remain a number of issues about leveling the playing field in terms of distribution of insurance in Japan, and those are issues that will be dealt with in the parallel negotiations.
Stanley White from Reuters. This is a follow-up to the previous question, but on the subject of insurance and also autos. You've mentioned that the United States would like to have more access here in Japan. But just very simply, what can Japan expect to get from it? And what is the U.S. prepared to give up to get this better access? I'm just trying to get a sense of how this is going to benefit Japan, because the position that you described seems to be a position that U.S. governments have held for quite a long time. But what can Japan expect to get out of it from the United States, and what really are the benefits to Japan?
Well, the U.S. is among the most open markets in the world, and Japan has a great deal to gain from TPP in terms of access to various markets in various areas. And I assume that's one of the reasons why the Japanese government decided to join TPP in the first place. You know, with regard to insurance and autos, these are long-standing issues in our relationship. And as I mentioned in my remarks, this is the time to address them so that we can put the trading relationship on sound footing. There are a number of steps that can be taken to open Japan's markets, and those are the types of non-tariff measures that we'll be talking about in the context of the parallel negotiations. But in terms of what Japan gains, Japan has enormous amounts to gain from the TPP as a whole, being part of this trade agreement, which represents 40% of global GDP. and creates these opportunities for all TPP countries to trade and integrate with each other.
Yes. Funasaki Hokkaido Press. Ambassador Froman, you said that preparation will be made to conclude the agreement this year, including tariffs or IPR, the rules of origin. There are hard areas. Against this backdrop, 29 chapters, 21 areas. When everything is agreed, then an announcement will be made for the agreement, or the announcement will be made for the partial agreement where agreement is reachable. What is your idea?
You correctly point out that there are 29 chapters and a number of difficult issues. We've also been at it for more than 2 years. So Japan is just entering now, but the other TPP partners, most of them go back more than 2 years in the negotiations. So we have made significant progress towards closure in a number of those areas between the beginning and now, and our goal is to reach a total agreement by the end of the year.
My name is Fuseya from NHK. Mr. Froman, you have on several occasions you've mentioned that the period up until the opening of the APEC summit is extremely important. At the APEC summit conference, what kind of agreement do you intend to get? What do you want the summit leaders to announce?
President Obama has said our goal is to complete TPP this year, and the October APEC meeting, where the leaders will be present, is an important milestone in that effort. It gives an opportunity for the leaders to come together and address outstanding issues, and to give guidance to their negotiators if there are any remaining issues.
Fujikawa, Tokyo Shimbun. I have a question on automobile. Earlier on, you said that there are non-tariff measures in auto market in Japan. Looking at the tariff, pickup trucks at 25% and the passenger cars at 2.5% tariff maintained by the United States. Simply looking at the tariff levels, U.S. is not open and Japan compared with Japan. So regarding American auto tariffs, what is your view?
I believe the foreign share of the Japanese market is about 6%. I believe the foreign share of the U.S. market is something closer to 40%. So I don't think there's any question that the U.S. market is quite open to imports, including imports from Japanese companies.
Just like to make sure that I understood what you said earlier. I think you said that from the US point of view, the success of the TPP is tied to the success of the bilateral discussions. Does the reverse apply? In other words, if for any reason the TPP negotiations as a whole are not successful, will the agreement reached between the US and Japan under the bilateral negotiations still go into force? If you're clear what I mean. And secondly, very briefly, there's been a good deal of criticism of the confidentiality or secrecy of these TPP negotiations. Why is it necessary to have such a high degree of confidentiality or secrecy?
On the first issue, all I'd say is our ability to conclude a TPP with Japan is tied to the successful conclusion of the parallel negotiations. So we see them proceeding in parallel and hopefully both being successful and coming together. On the second issue, we have been more transparent in TPP, and I'll just speak to the U.S. because each country handles these issues somewhat differently. We've been more transparent in TPP than any previous negotiation. We consult actively and aggressively with Congress, the representatives of the people, with our committees of jurisdiction. We've organized stakeholder events at each negotiation round. So we will have several hundred stakeholders come to our negotiating round, come to the place of our negotiating round, and be able to present their points of view, not just to the U.S. negotiators, but to the negotiators from all the TPP countries. And in the U.S., we have an extensive system of advisory committees representing a broad spectrum of advisors, not just from business, but from NGOs, from labor, and other stakeholder groups. So we have been quite transparent. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do better, and we're looking at ways in which we can be more effective in explaining to the public, as well as stakeholders, what it is we're negotiating, why it is we're negotiating, and how the negotiations are proceeding.
This is going to be the last question in the interest of time. This will be the last question. Yes, that person on that side.
TBS の菅野と。
Kanno TBS television station. The rate of tariff elimination, 90%, near 100% is some rumor, the rate of elimination of tariffs. What is your ambition? What should be the rate of tariff elimination? And another question, 85% was the first offer, according to a certain conjecture. What do you think of the number 85%? What is your feel about 85% number?
Reports about the 85% offer. I think that's a good initial step. Our goal with TPP is to be a comprehensive, ambitious agreement. And back in 2011, the TPP leaders agreed that their overall objective, their overall goal was the elimination of tariffs. Now, again, we recognize that countries have sensitivities and they'll have to be dealt with through the negotiation. But we think 85% is a good initial step towards what we expect to be a more ambitious agreement.
Thank you very much. Well, at the very last moment of this conference, allow me to make some comment, including some questions. In Japan, when everybody hears the word TPP, it is a ubiquitous word. Everybody knows it. Businessmen, even ordinary street people heard of TPP. It is a household name. It's been reported very widely. How is it in the United States? How widely it is known? Of course, congressmen would know, or business leaders would know, or ordinary people. Would they know? I mean, what is the sphere of knowledge of TPP in Japan? There are so many people aware of TPP. Do you have any comment to make about the fact that there are so many people in Japan aware of TPP?
Make is you have a very good press corps.
Thank you very much for your comment. With this, we would like to conclude this press conference. At the very end, as a token of appreciation, we would like to give you a gift to Ambassador Froman.
Thank you very much. And may I give you one? Thank you.
Well, until the U.S. Corps leaves this room, please remain seated.
Take care of the signature.